getting started in planning. So this first one is setting the roadmap and priorities. So, figuring out what you're going to do first, what content, what organization scope, what data systems and tools, which stakeholders, how you want to set up the framework, how you want to structure that, and you really want to drive that from your goals. Again, we have a number of sessions around assessing and prioritizing and building that roadmap, but this is a critical role for this team to do, because it's going to drive everything else that you do after that. The next and also critical thing is to get leadership buy-in and a commitment, because and part of that is putting together a compelling roadmap and thinking pragmatically and feasibly about what you're going to be able to do and what problems you're going to solve. So as you want to help to, part of your role here is to make sure that there's financial support and resource prioritization and endorsement. What I mean by resource prioritization is that, if you have a data steward who, is that you want to assign to do a task, and, do they have buy-in from their manager and from their leadership over them, that they can spend some amount of time, per week or per month doing the activities of data governance. Again, the case that you make on that is that they're probably already doing that, but they're doing it very informally and very inefficiently. So it should actually save time, but in some cases, particularly if they're very active, you're going to be taking a lot of their time with this, particularly early on. And then, getting general endorsements. So your goal here is to share the actionable goals, right? So to talk about what's the result of this and what's the value, and then you can justify it later. And not just sort of metrics on governance activity, but sort of share with them if you're saying, what's the value of what you're doing here? It's not just saying, hey, we've created 1,000 business policy terms. That is very, self, navel gazing, as they say. It's more like, oh, well, by the use of the glossary, we've been able to create, X amount of more consistency and trust in the data, or whatever those measures are. The other task here is defining the steward roles. Again, we talked about this in a previous session too, but figuring out for different types of content and different types of activity, what roles do you want to have to take action or review or subject matter expertise? So there's a lot of thought that can go into that. We're not going to go into great details, but that's an important role, defining those roles and figuring out what's the right setup for you when you track things. Once you have those roles too, then you want to think about, what are these workflows? What are the sort of points of entry for different types of requests, and how do we want them to get routed, and what's the best way to do this? So helping to drive those decisions. And again, you might do this iteratively, like, hey, we're going to do this set of content now, and in 6 months we're going to do another set. But really sort of creating those workflows and assigning those roles. And then picking the people, the stewards that you will put in those roles, right? And you want to recruit and assign those data stewards and match the people that play to their strengths. So don't put a purely functional person in a technical, where they're asked to be doing technical activities, or the other way around. So think about that. But managing that process is a critical part. And only assign people when they're ready. So you need to sort of plan to train the stewards. We'll talk about that. And that you may have to have some job description changes. These are just some things to think about as you plan this out. But ultimately, assigning the stewards is another task that you tend to do. And you can distribute that over time. So that's your getting started in planning.